What's going on YouTube? So the Mazda brand has quite a few crossovers at this point. And what I'm standing next to right now is the CX-50, the latest addition to their crossover lineup with an all-new nameplate. Now, if you remember back in the spring, we went to Santa Barbara, California for a first drive of this CX-50. However, now it's time for us to have it back in Kentucky for an entire week to fully test it out and see if we like it just as much as we did back in California. So, without wasting any time, let's go ahead and jump right into the review and answer that question. So the CX-50 is designed to be kind of the first Mazda crossover that gives you more rugged and adventurous vibe going on, and the design of it does support that when you first walk up to it. So immediately you'll see that we have basically a tougher stance than, say, something like the CX-5, which does also remain on sale alongside this CX-50. Right up here in the grille, you see that it's nice and squared off. We have kind of a thick look to it. So this black section here that wraps around the grille is kind of thick and meaty. And then the main part of the grille, as you can see, is finished in this gloss black, which looks really nice with the overall look of the vehicle itself. Down at the bottom, you also have a rugged and tougher looking bumper area. Now let's also talk about the lighting. I do like the way this looks. This again emphasizes the width of the vehicle by being a nice narrow design. Full LED across all of the models. However, if you get one of the turbo models, you will get the adaptive LEDs. And I love the way this looks with the daytime running lights as well. Very premium and upscale looking. Also premium is the fact that we have our separated turn signal indicator with that cool fading effect like we've seen on some of the other Mazda products. But I will point out there are no fog lights available on any of the models. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the wheels next. So you're going to find a standard 17-inch alloy for most of the trim levels. However, starting with the Premium Plus grade, that's where you're going to get these right here. My favorite, the 20-inch contrast alloy wheels. I say my favorite because this is a really good looking design. When you first walk up to the vehicle, I think they really get my attention. I like the contrast finish with the small bars of the silver that runs through it. And overall, it really sets off the design for me. But of course, you may prefer the smaller 17-inch wheels if you want that more rugged look. Now as we come up here to our mirrors, you'll notice we have a nice gloss black finish since this is a turbo equipped model. We'll also find standard blind spot monitoring. Heating is going to be on the preferred trim level and above. And then when we have the fully loaded model, we get two really nice features, especially for this category of vehicle. You have power folding and you also have driver's side auto dimming.
Now the front of the CX-50 looks very squared off and rugged, and you're also going to notice that here at the side of this all-new model. Now of course this is an all-new vehicle for Mazda that just came out a few months ago, and in terms of the overall length, you're looking at 185.8 inches, which does place it around 5 inches larger in terms of the length than the CX-5. Of course, they are targeting different demographics. This is going to be a more rugged, squared-off design than something like a CX-5, which is more urban-focused. Now, you will notice some of those elements here at the side. So one thing I want to point out is you have very beefed-up rugged matte black plastic throughout the entire vehicle. It's very pronounced here at the side as well as on the rear wheel arching. And then we're also going to have tough looking black window surrounds besides for this one little piece of chrome and your chrome roof rails. Now moving our way around to the rear design of the CX-50, this is a beautiful design, guys. So basically what it is like a CX-5 design language except fully modernized and also kind of squared off. So you're going to have a lot of the signature Mazda elements that we've grown to love, including these taillights. So these taillights are absolutely beautiful taillights. They're going to be the premium LED design on turbo trim levels. So you will notice you have your LED accenting, you also have an LED brake light, you have your fading in and out LED turn signal, as well as an LED reverse light. We're going to have an exposed wiper right here, an integrated spoiler up top. Dropping down, we have CX-50 branding, and then you have these unique looking vents here for the side. give it a nice rugged look, along with the matte black plastic, some silver trim at the very bottom, and you're also going to have dual exposed exhaust outlets on every single CX-50, which is something I'm very happy about because a lot in the segment are just fully eliminating them. And for the turbo model, you'll notice that these are larger diameter exhaust outlets, so it gives it a little bit of a sportier look. Now, in terms of your tow rating, you're looking at 2,000 pounds for the regular engine model, and if you go for a turbo, you're looking at 3,500 pounds, which is pretty exceptional for this class of vehicle. Now, this new CX-50 is in a very family-focused segment of vehicle, so they're going to have to make safety systems a priority, and they are going to do that for this all-new model. So their entire safety suite is standard across the board, so even on that base model, you're going to have forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection, auto high beam headlamps, lane keeping assist, as well as adaptive cruise control with a stop and go function. Now, the only safety system that you're not going to get on all of them will be rear auto braking, which is included on that very top end CX-50 model. Now, in terms of your warranty, you're looking at a 3-year 36,000 mile basic warranty, 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain warranty. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up the exterior design of this beautiful zircon sand CX-50. Now let's go ahead and check out the interior before we take it out on a test drive and talk about what we liked about this vehicle for the last 7 days.
So heading up to the CX-50, this of course is your typical Mazda key fob. You will find a smart entry system on all but the base model. And to get inside, just grab behind the handle. It will unlock, and if equipped, the mirrors will also fold outwards. And there's a look at the all-new model's interior, and we'll go ahead and climb inside. Now let's kick off this detailed interior tour by talking material and color choices. So you're going to find cloth seating on just your base S trim level. All the middle trim levels, which is Select through the Preferred Plus, those will come with leatherette. And then your Premium and Premium Plus trim levels will come with the real leather that you see here on today's example. Now with the turbo models, we have the choice between black or also a special terracotta with orange stitching. As you can tell, of course, we do have the black option today, which still looks very nice. It's got a lot of these nice stitching details. You're going to see this theme actually repeated throughout the cabin, but we do have this stitching, double stitching detail, the piping that runs through. Really nice looking seat. The leather quality is very nice as well, and it is comfortable. As far as the seat adjustments on the preferred trim level and above, that's going to get you the 8-way power adjusting with 2-way lumbar support. Well, let's go ahead and look around the rest of the cabin, because as you know, of course, Mazda makes very nice cabins. And with this fully loaded model, they're kind of targeting basically a entry-level luxury buyer. And indeed, this does live up to my expectations in that regard, mostly. So we do have a nice leather padding across the armrest. It's going to be leather through here. This center panel is going to be finished in a nice leather. And again, you see that double cross stitching that looks really nice. Soft touch along the top as well. As we move on up, we've got more soft touch materials all through here. More soft touch materials through there. We got this kind of single vent effect through there. I like the vent design on the other vents. More of the leatherette with the cross stitching. And then this is the one area that I don't think is particularly premium for this price point. This is actually going to be hard touch, unlike what you have on the CX-5. Instead of the leather padding, you do have the hard touch material down here, but the center part is still finished in a piano black. And then to fire it up, you do have standard push button start. So as far as the gauges are concerned, this is kind of your typical Mazda affair. You've got a 7-inch reconfigurable gauge cluster right there in the middle. You might not initially be able to tell, but if you press that button right there, you can change between a few different designs and different kinds of information. Additionally, when you go into the drive mode controller and you select the sport mode, or if you go into the off-road mode, you'll notice the design also changes there. And while I'm touching the drive modes, I do want to point out that the turbo does come with a exclusive towing mode. That doesn't show up in the drive mode controller though until you actually hook up a trailer. Now as I pull back here, we do have our rain sensing wipers, and I can't forget to mention this really nice head-up display. One of the things I really love about Mazdas is that they're very clear and crisp with their head-up displays. They also have the blind spot monitoring inside of the head-up display, which is a very useful feature. As far as the availability, this is going to be on the 2.5 Premium Plus and then the 2.5T Premium and Premium Plus. Now taking a look here at our steering wheel, we do have the nice leather-wrapped steering wheel. As far as the adjustment is going to be manual, tilt, and telescoping. If you want heating, you will have to choose a Turbo Premium or the Turbo Premium Plus. Now off to the side, we've got several buttons here turning on and off various functions, including your auto start stop system if you don't like that. Down below that, you'll also find your 2-person memory seating, and this is going to be included on the premium grade and above. But let's go ahead and take a look around the cabin for interior storage. So let's start out underneath the center console. We do have the split opening center console here, and it's pretty big. You have plenty of space for most of your belongings in there. We do have a USB port. And let's put the storage to the test with the coupons. They kind of got bunched up, but even when they're all bunched up, they still slide right in there, no problem. Now up in front of that, we do have our 2 cup holders. You have another nicely sized storage area right there. It is rubber lined and a 12-volt outlet. But I can't forget to mention, with the Turbo Premium Plus, the fully loaded model, you do have a wireless phone charger right there. So if I open that up again, you'll be able to see it a little bit better, but basically you slide your phone underneath of that lip and it will charge it right up. Now taking a look here at our shifter, we do have a traditional style shifter. Just pull back for drive, bump over here to the left if you want to shift manually. And if you have one of the turbo models, you will also have paddle shifters up on the steering wheel. And then heading into reverse, this is where we'll be greeted with one of the reasons you might want to buy the fully loaded Turbo Premium Plus, and that is this 360-degree camera system. As you can see, we do have that top-down view. You've got the active trajectory, front and rear parking sensors, and the resolution on board is really crisp, and I do appreciate that it takes up the entire display. You can also switch between several different views by pressing that camera button on the other side of the steering wheel. And then back behind the shifter, you've got your electronic parking brake and your brake hold. We also have our Mazda controller for the infotainment system, but we do have a caveat to that, and I'm going to talk about that a little later, but we do have some touch ability for this CX-50. And then right off to the right-hand side of that, we have our audio controls. So this model does come with a standard 8-speaker sound system, but Premium and Premium Plus models come with the Bose 12-speaker center point sound system. That's what we have, and let's go ahead and give it a sample right now. Yeah, so overall sound quality of this system is quite good. One of the things I noticed over the past week is the fact that this sound system is more well balanced than the Bose sound system and other Mazdas that we've sampled. I think they kind of dialed back the bass a little bit to give you a more well-rounded sound that sounds crisp with all different kinds of instruments. Alright, so let's go ahead and head up to this next panel, which of course is our climate control. So on this model, all but the base model will come with a dual zone automatic climate control setup. As you can see, very simple adjustments. We have really nice and tactile controls there to make those adjustments to the fan speeds as well as the zones and the temperatures, of course. And then down below that, that's where you'll find your buttons for your heated and ventilated seats. So heated seats are going to come on the preferred model and above. And then the ventilated seats, those are going to come on the Premium Plus as well as the Turbo Premium and Premium Plus. I know that's a little bit confusing, but it does have some differences depending on which engine you are in. Nevertheless, let's go up here and start to talk about this display. So there are going to be two displays on board. An 8.8-inch display that's going to be on just the base CX-50. Everything else will have the 10.25-inch display you are looking at right now. So this is similar to other Mazdas, but I want to go ahead and right off the bat point out that difference that I was talking about earlier, and that's the fact that we do have some touch abilities on board. If you are in Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you can now reach up here and control it as a touch screen. So I do appreciate that, because these systems, of course, were designed for touch abilities. That being said, I will say it is still very far away, so I wouldn't reach and do this a lot while driving unless it's absolutely essential, but it's still a lot easier, even if you're at a stop, than using the control knob to go through a touch-based system. Speaking of the systems, this is going to be wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay for both screen sizes, which is also nice to have on board. And I'll click back and show you guys the built-in Mazda system. Once again, when you're in this system, it is not touch capacitive, so you will have to use the control knob down here, which I think is nice and easy to use, generally speaking. This is going to be our built-in navigation system. This is quite basic looking, to be frank. You'll definitely want to use the Android Auto or Apple CarPlay is going to be the best bet in terms of navigating. But overall, like I said, the system is fine. It's just on the simple side of things. Now, as we move on from that, we do have an auto-dimming mirror, frameless design, 3 HomeLink universal remotes built into it. Got some nice LED lighting. We've got a sunglass holder. And a lot of you guys will be very happy to see this feature. A panoramic sunroof. This is actually the very first Mazda ever to come with a panoramic sunroof. And as far as your availability on this, that's going to be the preferred plus trim level and above. And the front panel does open up.
Well guys, here is the Mazda CX-50's rear seat. Now just visually, you'll be able to tell that this CX-50 has a lot of space back here. So let's go ahead and dive into that first, and then we'll also talk about some of the luxury features that you're going to get. So in terms of the legroom, we're looking at 39.8 inches of legroom, 38.6 inches of headroom. So really impressive legroom figures, also really impressive headroom figures. That does make it right on par with something like a Mazda CX-5 if you're cross-shopping within the own Mazda lineup, or also if you're looking for other competitors like the Toyota RAV4, Honda CR-V, that's going to be pretty much competitive in terms of the space figures. I'm 5'9". The seat is adjusted to cruise position, and I'm looking at probably 4.5 to 5 inches of space between my knees and the seat back, and my feet can slide up underneath of the seat. Now, in terms of some of the features that you're going to get, here in the center you will notice that we have rear vents. That's actually going to be included nicely on all but the very base model. So if you go for all but that very base trim level, you will have the vents back here. And then if we drop below that, you're going to notice that we do have 3-stage heated rear seats. Definitely not good for a day like today, but that is included on the top-end Turbo Premium Plus model. If we drop below that, you also have 2 USB ports to charge things up. Then if we fold down the center armrest, there are cup holders inside of here. Then turn to your door trim. Now, in terms of the door trim, I do want to point this out. The upper part is going to be made of a hard touch plastic, so that's a little bit disappointing to me. The front is a soft touch plastic. The back is going to be a cheaper hard touch plastic, which I do believe the CX-5 has a nicer rear door trim. If we drop down to the lower areas, though, that's going to be nicely leather padded, so your arm's going to definitely be nice and comfortable. And then in the very bottom, you do have a bottles holder. And before I go around to the tailgate area, I do want to point out this bit that we've noticed over the past 7 days. You see, normal doors might open to this level. The CX-50 actually takes it a notch further and opens at, I would say that's actually probably an 85-degree angle. This is almost a full 90-degree angle. And why is that important? Well, you could definitely load like stuff into the second row, a child seat. I don't have a kid, but some of you guys comment that might have kids. I imagine that makes it a lot easier to get into install the child seat and take it out and whatnot. Now, in terms of your tailgate, we do have a power tailgate as standard equipment on the preferred trim levels and above. Interestingly enough, Mazda is not offering a hands-free function, so that's a little bit of a feature that I would expect to see, especially at this price point, which we'll talk about later in this video. But to not have that offered at all, I hope that Mazda does consider offering that as a feature in the upcoming model years. Now, as far as the space is concerned, we're looking at 31.4 cubic feet of cargo capacity behind the second row seats. If you fold those seats down, you will notice a 56 cubic feet maximum, which does place this as less than a lot of its main competition. It's actually less than the Mazda CX-5 for reference. Definitely going to be less than Toyota RAV4 and Honda CR-V as well. So keep that in mind if you're cross-shopping between those models. You are going to get less space in the CX-50. That said, as you can see, we have a lot of stuff back here. We have two backpacks, a tripod. Everything fits back here perfectly fine. 56 cubic feet of cargo capacity is plenty for most people. Now, in terms of other features, we have a 12-volt outlet here on the left side. We have LED illumination. And then in terms of folding the seats, it's as simple as just pressing these little levers right here on the side. They do fold 60-40 split, and they do fold completely flat with the floor. So you can load whatever you're going to need completely flat, no worries there. And if we lift up the cargo floor, there is a spare tire up underneath of that. Here's your passenger seat on the CX-50. It is going to be power adjusting with this high-end model. As you can see, we do not have lumbar support, but we do have all the basic adjustments. Should be 6-way power adjusting. And if we open up the glove box here, we do have a really good glove box, guys. So as you can see, we already have our coupons loaded in here. We didn't even have to set up for the video because we've been living with this car for 7 days. So our coupons are already in there. We've been utilizing them all week long. Today we're going to go to Fazoli's Feed 8 for only $24.99. Pretty good deal, if you ask me. That sounds pretty good. As you can see, they fit in there perfectly fine. The glove box itself is not felt lined. That said, it's actually pretty nice for coupons because you just slide them in there in the back. And then up top, we have a sun visor, LED illumination. We have a mirror as well. Then we can also detach the visor out, and there's an extension in the end.
All right.
Nice.
Of course, as you would probably expect with the 2.5 turbo motor, we have very strong performance on board with this CX-50, the same way as we do with many of the other Mazda products, including like the Mazda 3 hatch that we had not that long ago. So horsepower for this is going to be 256 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque. Of course, the torque is really what you notice. It pushes you back in the seat. It feels very strong. I've heard a lot of people say it feels diesel-like, and I would agree.
Yeah.
You really have just a lot of grunt when you take off, and frankly, it's pretty addicting in the sense that pretty much everything this car competes with does not offer an engine in this type of category, this higher performance level. Hear the turbocharger too.
Yeah, so if you don't want to go for this turbo motor, of course there is other engine option for this CX-50 model. That's going to be the lamer option, the weaker 2.5 liter non-turbo 4-cylinder. That's going to be standard equipment on the vast majority of CX-50 models. 187 horsepower, 186 pound-feet of torque. Those are competitive numbers. I do say that's the lamer engine option, but they are still very competitive with the class in general. It's just that this 2.5 turbo is, of course, going to be the enthusiast option and the option for those of you who might want a little bit more pep in your stuff.
Right, and you know, this CX-50 really has higher aspirations, and I think that when you choose one of these top-end trim levels with this powerful turbo, really the intended audience, I guess, is someone that might be cross-shopping with a lower-end luxury crossover, for example. Which, with this type of power, you definitely could cross-shop.
Right.
Let's also talk about the other aspect of the powertrain. That's going to be the 6-speed automatic transmission. Now, I'll say the same thing that I've said with pretty much all the other Mazdas for many years now. This is the same transmission. 6 is less than 8 or 10, which a lot of the competition does have at this point. But that being said, it is a very smooth transmission. It's nice and responsive. It's a little slower on the shifting in between shifts, but it's not anything I think is going to be much of a problem. Like we're talking about with the torque figure, that actually really makes up for the transmission having less gears, because you don't have to shift as often when you have that type of torque on board.
And all-wheel drive is going to be standard equipment, which does mean that we only have one fuel economy figure for the turbo. That's going to be 25 mpg combined. If you go for the regular 2.5-liter non-turbo, that's going to be 27 mpg. So only a 2 mpg penalty for going for the turbo motor, which I think is pretty impressive for how much power you're going to get additionally. But now that we're cruising down this road here, I want to get a sound level reading going 55. Let's turn down the air a little bit, even though it's really hot. 54.5 decibels. Wow, wow, wow. That's really impressive. If you keep up with our reviews, you'll know that that is very much a luxury vehicle sound level. Now, granted, we are on our home road here in Lexington that has just been freshly paved, so that has a little bit to do with it. That said, that is a really good reading that actually out-tested something like a Lexus RX that we just did a few days ago in California. So that's something worth noting. This Mazda has a really quiet cabin, and also in general, when you're talking about the ride quality, it does have a very good ride quality for the segment of vehicle. We were talking about this a little bit off camera. My only complaint with the ride quality, I think, would have to be the wheels themselves are really large on this particular CX-50 tester, and that does kind of transfer in a little bit of the harshness from the road. It's not like a very harsh ride, but you can definitely feel when you go over a bump in the CX-50.
Right. I mean, Mazdas are known for, having feel and driving enthusiasm, and I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, in terms of the ride quality, you do feel the road, but you don't have like really harsh impacts at the same time. And it has a very solid, well put together feel, just like every single Mazda. I always talk about how it feels kind of like the closest mainstream brand to a German luxury car in the way that you have that solid feel. So I click it into sport mode. And we'll talk about how this is to drive. We're out here on a nice country road today. And like I said, this is kind of what Mazda is known for. But of course, this is kind of their first time getting into, a more off-road capable thing. Normally they're making very road-oriented models, and this CX-50 has some off-road capability. So we'll see how it stands up to some enthusiastic driving.
Yeah.
Yeah, so us testing it out this week, one of the things that's really been the best things to experience that I've been happy about is that we're not sacrificing that Mazda character for the extra off-road capability. Because I was wondering, are they going to make it like really soft, for example? But that's not going to be the case at all. It really still feels very sharp when you're out on a back road. The chassis is nice and tossable, good road manners, nice balance. And of course the steering.
The steering, yeah.
Mazda steering is so good. I mean, it is heavy, great road feel, super responsive. I mean, just tiny off-center and you get that immediate response. This really is a very, very nice vehicle to drive on all types of roads, but when you open it up kind of on a back road, it really holds its own for a crossover. It's very impressive. And all of that I just said, that's going to be today's slam dunk, because like I said, this car does have premium aspirations, and I think it lives up to that. That's all I'm really going to say about that. You already heard my spiel, but having that premium driving dynamic really cements this in as being a good alternative to a full-on luxury vehicle.
Yeah. Now, as far as your airball is concerned for the CX-50, after living with it for 7 days, I'm going to be honest with you guys and say that it's very tough for us to come up with an airball still. This is a really great all-round family SUV. It might be it's very close to the top, if not the very top offering in our eyes of family compact, SUV to buy. But with that said, I will say that some of the materials in the CX-50 are oddly worse than something like a CX-5. Like this thing that my knee rests against, that's all made of hard touch plastic, and then my door grab here is also made of hard touch plastic. It's definitely not bad materials for the segment of vehicle. That said, for a Mazda, this is going to have a little bit worse of materials than a CX-5 fully loaded up. And lastly here, let's go ahead and discuss the pricing information for the 2023 Mazda CX-50. Now, I was mentioning the CX-5 just a minute ago, and it is actually going to have very competitive pricing with that CX-5 model. So it's going to be very similar. We're starting at $26,800. Keep in mind, you do have standard all-wheel drive on every version of the CX-50. There are about 9 million trim levels, and then you get your way all the way up to the Turbo Premium Plus, like what we have today. That's going to be $41,550. Now, this tester, maximally loaded out, is going to be sitting at $43,170 once you add in the $1,225 destination charge.
But overall, I have to say, after 7 days of living with this CX-50, I think our opinion as this being one of the strongest offerings is cemented in.
Yep.
Some of these cars, you go on your first drive, you get those initial impressions. But you never know. When you live with it, you might find some extra flaws you didn't know about, or you might find some extra things that you really love. And I think with this car, we leaned a lot more towards the things that we really love. Like I said, it's just really a strong offering and something that appeals to, I think, people who want a more rugged vehicle, a more adventurous vehicle, but also still have that driving enthusiasm as well. And in all those ways, as well as the family aspect, it definitely nails that.
Well, guys, thanks so much for watching this in-depth review of the all-new 2023 Mazda CX-50 in its fully loaded Turbo Premium Plus trim level. We sure have enjoyed living with this vehicle for the past 7 days, so if you enjoyed watching this video, hopefully you did, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, because that's what helps give us access to vehicles like these for a full 7-day test, as well as to attend press events for the newest vehicles being launched out there. So please go ahead and subscribe, tell a friend, tell a family member. Also follow us on TikTok and Instagram, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.